I'm so thrilled that we're next going to hear a few remarks from an extraordinary person here at the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry, Voula Saridakis, who is the Collections, Archives, and Curator of not only the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry, but also the Henry Crown Space Center. And she's going to tell us a little bit more about this incredible new installation here at the GSMSI. So, Voula, over to you.
All right, so, oh boy, I'm regretting that picture now, awkward teenage years. So Mike, you mentioned, the hook, when that happens. When I was 3 years old, my family moved to South Florida, and every year after that, we would drive up to what felt like the center of the universe, and you might have heard of it. It's called Central Florida, specifically Walt Disney World and Kennedy Space Center. Now, don't get me wrong, Disney World was a lot of fun, but it really was Kennedy Space Center where I first discovered space and the incredible spacecraft and rockets that take us there. And I'm gonna skip ahead many, many years. I started my role as the curator here at Griffin Museum of Science and Industry close to 8 years ago. And then 2 years ago, I also became a NASA JPL Solar System Ambassador. So this is a public engagement effort with volunteers like myself who communicate the science and excitement of NASA's space exploration missions and discoveries with people in their communities. And so since joining, I've delivered several public library lectures, I've done presentations here at the museum, and I've staffed NASA tables at conferences like you see above me. Okay, so here's Henry Crown Space Center. Now, I've curated many exhibits and events over the years, but nothing has brought me a more profound sense of pride and satisfaction as this renovated and reimagined Henry Crown Space Center. We, and by we, I mean the talented, incredibly talented team that worked on this exhibit, wanted to demonstrate to our visitors that space truly is for everybody, and to dream big and to dream boldly. And we reinterpreted these incredible and unique artifacts that are displayed to more accurately reflect their purpose and their significance. So for example, the lunar module trainer no longer has that moon backdrop. You remember that moon backdrop, right? We've never been to the moon, but rather it sits in a mock-up of the training facility at Kennedy Space Center like it actually did in the late 60s and early 70s. Our newest arrival, I like it to call it the rookie, is the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft housed in this state-of-the-art glass enclosure. It has that horizontal projection behind it that it displays this captivating footage from the first of 2 missions, the CRS-12 mission in 2017. It was in space again in 2019, and because of that, we can tell this remarkable story of reusability. And then we also reinterpreted the story of one of the most iconic and celebrated artifacts at the museum, the Apollo 8 command module. This incredibly gutsy mission, which there's just this host of incredible firsts, not least of which is traveling to the moon and orbiting the moon for the very first time. And I came across, as I was doing some research, this is from the archives at Air and Space in Washington, D.C., and I came across this Washington Post front page from December 30th, 1968. You can see that famous Earthrise photo, and I'll come back to that. I also came across these newspaper cartoons. So you have the Apollo 8 splashdown, and I really do like what's written on those parachutes: vision, courage, science. And on the right, you have the astronauts, Borman, Lovell, Anders, with one of them pointing to the moon and saying, "We shall return," and we did return. I couldn't help but put this one in there too, which was very odd. Canadian Club ad in the New York Times. Here's to the astronauts who flew rings around the moon and right above the bottle, and a special toast to NASA for clearing the way. All right, let's come back to this Earthrise photo. Again, such an amazing photo because, again, it symbolizes the interconnectedness of humanity, the need to protect our shared home. And this extraordinary event, you can learn more about it with the content and, again, the film that is projected out at Henry Crown Space Center behind the Apollo 8 command module. I encourage you to watch the entire video because you'll also see how the Apollo program was not achieved by just this handful of individuals. It was because of the efforts of thousands upon thousands of people in thousands of roles. And those thousands of people has grown even more as we work on landing humans on the moon with the Artemis program. So I end with this. I'd love to hear about the overview effect with our astronauts. Maybe we'll get a chance to chat about that. So this is this profound sense of awe when you see from Earth, from space, and how beautiful and fragile it is, and then something in them shifts, right? And one of the overview effects that I wanted to share with you comes from a former astronaut. This is Rusty Schweikart, who served on board Apollo 9 when he wrote this. Earth is so small and so fragile and such a precious little spot in the universe that you can block it out with your thumb. And you realize that on that small spot, that little blue and white thing is everything that means anything to you. And you realize from that perspective that you've changed and there's something new there, that the relationship is no longer what it was. So many of us think how lucky we would be if we too could experience something so remarkable, if we too could travel in space. But the truth is, we are all travelers in space. And this is our spaceship, Spaceship Earth. Thank you so much.